last time we spoke, I'd just seen Midnight Oil at Bluesfest on Friday night and had a fantastic night. It was great and I was re-energized. A mere 2 days later, I went to Bluesfest and had the complete opposite night. Like it was, if Friday night, the Midnight Oil night was like, a great festival experience, I had the complete opposite experience. And
because on Sunday you went to see Daylight Solar, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And weirdly, they have very right-wing politics. Like you'd think from the name they'd be really hippy-dippy, but they say a lot of mean and horrible shit.
There was a weird energy. Let's just say this. So in sporting parlance, I was managing my minutes. I'm not a young spring chicken anymore, so I couldn't do like the full 4 days. I had no intention of doing the full 4 days. Would never camp. Like that's completely off the table. But I live, 20 minutes drive from the festival site. So Jem and I decided we'd buy tickets for 2 days with the two bands we wanted to see. So Crowded House were the headliners on Sunday. And I would have thought that like, okay, Midnight Oil, Hoodoo Gurus, that's the big party Friday night, night at the festival. And then Sunday seems like the bit more of the mellower kind of one.
I mean, that makes sense. Like that makes sense in what you're saying.
Sense.
In a programming sense, you've got these huge rock and roll, like heavy guitars.
Almost punk,
But also sing-along anthemic, sort of, you can imagine people literally moshing to bands like Midnight Oil and Hoodoo Gurus, whereas you can't really imagine people going, here's 4 seasons in one day and rushing to the mosh pit.
Well, I don't know if it was like Crowded House specifically or who else was on the bill. I mean, the first thing I'd say is it was so muddy. Like by day 3 of the festival, like it was so uneven. And
has it been wet up that way?
It's just a bit of water, just a bit of groundwater. By day 3, it was like full on, just mud pit. And so the ground was very uneven. And what I didn't anticipate was because the festival site is so big. And so we went in early. We took Iona in for her first festival experience, and that was an omen because Iona missed her nap and we went in sort of late afternoon. And when toddlers miss naps, what you then have on your hands is like a ticking time bomb. Sometimes it can go fine, but other times you are dealing with like a feral animal that just you cannot contain. It's nothing makes it happy. Everything makes it angry. And you're just in constant sort of like putting out spot fires left, right and center.
Well, what you've done is you've skipped a couple of steps. You've taken her not to her first festival. You've taken her to her first last day of a festival.
Come down.
And she's got some real last day of a 3-day festival energy going into the final day.
Yeah, that's 100% right. It's day 3 of camping. All the drugs are gone. She was feeling really, really shitty. So we get in and we as soon as we got there, because it's first of all, we took the wrong entrance. And so we parked on the complete wrong side of the festival, then had to do this 20-minute hike to get to where we needed to get in. And then once we got in there, she was just like, no, I don't like any of this. I don't want to see anything. And so then as a parent, you start going like bribes, okay, ice cream, face painting. So, but it was so packed. Like I thought Friday night was busy, but Sunday was even busier. And I don't know who the lineup was, but it felt like it must've been a younger, like more hip hop or dancey, because it was just heaps more of that young kind of, I don't want to say stereosonic energy, but there was a lot of that stereosonic energy like happening, which I was completely taken aback by at Bluesfest, just seeing those kind of dudes and those kind of girls, milling around at Bluesfest. And so the only place we could go to calm Iona down was this face painting tent, but there was like everything, there was a huge line. So we get into the line and Jem and I are taking it in turns just to kind of like a little princess, just sedate her with like toys and trinkets and ice cream so she wouldn't flip out. So we finally got her face painted, got her an ice cream. That seemed okay. She saw a bit of John Stevens and noise. Well, not Noiseworks. I think it's John Stevens doing the song, the hits of Noiseworks and INXS, which I only seem to like. She seemed to enjoy a bit of reach out and touch somebody. And then the plan was Jem was going to take Iona home. We had friends staying. She was going to get us settled and Jem would come back in and meet me. So we'd been there for a couple of hours and I hadn't really seen anything, just been sort of walking from one place to the other and then seeing like a little bit of John Stevens and then back to the car to get Iona back in the baby seat and see Gemma off. And then so finally I've got like an hour or two to myself, and I'm like, fantastic. Like, let's just go see some acts and, go to the bar and all that kind of stuff. But hiking all the way back in the bar, I get a text from a friend of mine, a publicist. He's like, oh, hey, a friend of mine has this like wildlife foundation. They've got a tent there they'd really love if you could go and just take a photo with them and put it on Instagram. So I'm like, yeah, okay, no problem. Where is it? So it's by this stage. I look at the map. It's on the complete other side of the site. So I'm like, fuck. So I'm like, could at least grab a beer or something? So I go, no, but the lines are too long. So I'm like, I'll just get this photo done and then I'll get to the bar. So I trudge like all the way to the other side of the site. And I'm like, where is this like animal sanctuary tent? Like, and she's like, it's near the whatever stage. And so I'm circling the stage. I go to every stall. Can't find it. And then obviously, because it's a festival, you're trying to text, but you're not, it's like spotty mobile coverage. And I'm texting her, where is it? And she's like, oh yeah, I think they packed up. I'm like, oh great. Oh great. So they packed up. I mean, that would have been useful information 2 hours ago. Great. No problem. So then I finally get a drink. And
it clearly means that they weren't really hanging out for that photo. Also,
yeah,
like the photo wasn't that important in the first place. If they were clearly not willing to wait around for another 15 minutes, they're like, "We're not ruining our day at this excellent festival. We're going off to see John Stevens. What are you talking about?"
Fuck the Wombats. They've had it too good for too long.
We're going to see the band, the Wombats. That's who we want to see.
So finally, I meet up with Sammy Cav, and he's there with a couple of mates. And so I can't remember who was playing, but it was some kind of like funk band or something like that. And we've got this other friend, Josh, who's very distinctive. He's got long, straight, dark hair, and always wears like a baseball cap. So we're sort of texting back and forth, meet by this tower at this, at this proximity to the stage. So we're sort of going to the crowd and it's really, really busy. And I hate that, you feel so bad when you're sort of like squeezing past people to kind of get to like a fairly indeterminate, location. But then we see Josh and I'm like, oh, great. I could see the dark hair and the baseball cap. And so we squeeze right up. We go right up to this guy, tap him on the shoulder. Not Josh. No. Absolutely not him. But like from behind, a complete double. So then we're like, all right, let's just get out of the crowd. So now we have to squeeze all the way back. And we end up on the side of the tent where the support, cables are, holding the tent up. So we're standing there, pretty good point of view, watching bands go by. But a lot of people are walking past and not seeing the cables and tripping. So Sam, being the good guy that he is letting people know, hey, look out, there's a cable. And so this girl is walking out, away from the stage, and Sam's like, hey, watch out for the cable. And her boyfriend, Stereosonic Dude, just jumps out and shoves Sam and is like, don't fucking touch her. And Sam's like, what? And then he's like, I'll fucking smash you. And then like everyone's like, whoa, dude. Like, no. And then like this dude cocks his fist at the entire crowd. Like he is willing to... Like the he's going to
punch you all. You all stop looking at me, or you will all get this fist of fury. Each and every one of you. Literally a guy waving his muscles at a crowd.
Yeah, like literally like when, those Green Lantern comics where he'll just generate a giant fist and swing it at like a crowd of bad guys. Like I've never seen anything like it. He literally like backed away from the crowd with his fist cocked, like daring someone to come near him. And like, it wasn't just Sam, like there's about 20 people in the area who was like, what the fuck just happened? Like clearly just saying, hey, watch out.
Do you reckon he knows where to get some ice, that fella?
Yeah. Ice and steroids in strong supply wherever he's come from. And so that sort of like put a bit of a kind of weird like energy over it. It's like, okay, it's not the Bluesfest I'm used to or even the festival experience that I'm really used to.
No, it's Byron Bay getting in a Bluesfest.
Exactly right. So... Then, the sun goes down. Gemma's texting me. She's on her way in. I'm like, okay, cool. At this stage, I still really haven't seen anything because it's been like toddlers having tantrums and then dudes threatening to punch my friends and then, mistaken identities like trying to. So it's just been all that. It's been like hours of that. Finally, Gem arrives. So I go, I'll line up at the bar when she's 20 minutes away. And that way, by the time she gets here, I'll have some drinks. So Gem arrives, gives her a drink, and then we go because Crowded House are about to start. So we meet up with our friends and Sam and a couple other guys and Josh, and Crowded House start. And Josh turns to me and goes, "Don't you think Neil Finn looks like Margaret Pomerantz?" I don't know if you've seen his hair lately, but he's got that kind of...
It's a buff. He has a bit of
it's that spiky, silvery, and I swear to God, it ruined the whole gig for me because I'm just like, he looks like Margaret Pomerantz. I'm just waiting for him to turn to David and ask what he thought about the previous song. Like, I didn't like it, David. I felt like there was the chorus wasn't strong enough and the chords were just a little repetitive.
Well, wouldn't it be great if Crowded House did it David and Margaret style? So they do their set, but then someone comes out and refutes the lyrics. So, you know, like, so he does a bit of, 4 seasons in one day, and then it goes over to someone else and go, well, to be honest, it's really hyperbole. It was more like 3 seasons in that one day. He's added, like, it wasn't really like summer at all. It got a bit warm in the afternoon, and I really don't think this can be justifying the total 4 seasons in one day. But that's just my take.
Yeah, and so, and to be honest, it was just, after seeing Midnight Oil, it was too mellow for me. I was actually just getting a bit bored. I'm like, oh, look, I appreciate this, the musicianship and the songs and everything, but just not really into this. So I went back to the bar and started chatting to this couple, friends of friends. And it was all good. They were getting on really well. And then it took a hard pivot into anti-vax territory. And I was like, oh, I had just enough to drink and just enough medicine that when it steered that, I was like, you know what? I've had a pretty shit night. I'm willing to get into this. Let's have a chat. Tell me your views. Like,
okay.
let's find out what your point of view is. And so... And because one of the girls was German or something, and she said, well, in Europe, they didn't shut the borders. Everyone traveled normally. And I think that's, personal freedom is more important. And we've got kids. I think it's damaging them to see people wearing masks, not natural. And I said, yeah, okay. And I said, well, look, no one's saying there's a perfect solution to what's going on right now, but, we're trying to mitigate the risks. And I guess at some point you sort of have to weigh off, is the potential lack of development of children not seeing, people's faces constantly. Is that better or worse than a pandemic spreading out of control across nations and with open borders?
Also, by the way, people are seeing people's faces. This is the argument, like, that always is like, oh, well, everyone's wearing masks. Everyone's not wearing masks. There's never been a time where everyone wore masks. Like, some people have worn masks. Sometimes it's been more people, and now it is much, much less people, much, much fewer people. But there's never been a time where, like, if you had a kid, you'd be like, yeah, my baby's 2, never seen a face. It's just not happening. That is not a realistic scenario.
Yeah, well, in their mind too, because then the next thing they pivoted to was, well, we're getting forced to be vaccinated, and that violates human rights. And I said, no one is forcing anyone to get vaccinated. And he's like, yeah, but I can't work specific jobs unless... And I said, yeah, but there's tons of jobs where you have to have specific qualifications before they'll let you do the job. I mean, that's, that's pretty standard, right? Like, I would like to fly an airplane. I can't just fucking like fly an airplane. There's certain things I have to qualify for, certain amounts of training, certain things I have to do.
I have a job... My job, without going into too many of the details of, the requirements of these sort of jobs, but every year for Gruen, I have to get a full medical before we do the shows, and I have to make sure that all my vaccinations are up to date. Like, that's been happening. It's been happening for...
Fascism, Will.
Is it?
It's your fault for yielding to fascists.
I actually thought it was just to protect the people that I work with and their jobs and mortgages and lives and families.
I mean, you would have thought it was just like a public health issue at the moment, and that maybe... Because that was the other thing, is then they've gone, oh, well, we've both had it and it's fine. It's just like a cold. And I said, well, that's great. I said, I've got a friend who's in hospital at the moment because they caught COVID and the virus got into their spine and they don't know if he's going to walk again. So... I'm really glad that you guys are okay and you think it's nothing more than a cold. And then 3 days after Bluesfest, I start getting the sniffles and I'm like, fucking hell. I was like, to see the full video, join our Patreon.
Patreon.com/TOFOP.